Thank you, Secretary.
I've been, one of the things I'm interested in is workforce. I think Yankton is suffering right now. If you were to open a new business in this town, it could be, I say, difficult to get enough people to staff it. But I look at Vermillion, and we're here talking about Yankton and Vermillion, and I look at Vermillion, and they've got, what do you got over there for students?
We have about 10,000 students.
Okay, 10,000 students. How many of them are part-time?
Probably about 2,000, but
Okay,
yeah.
what are they doing? When I went to college, I worked two jobs. And I look at those kids over there, young people, and I say, what a pool we could have depending on what the business is. They probably aren't going to be welders, but there are things that they could be doing in Yankton part-time or after hours, or they could be working for a Yankton business by a computer from their dorm or their apartment. I would like to see some way to put together a workforce pool from people available in both communities so that Yankton and Vermillion both know who's out there, what their interests are, and how could they possibly fit in with what we've got going on. We're missing out. You look at Brookings, go up to Brookings and look what those kids are doing up there. You know, a lot of those kids, engineer students obviously, are working at Daktronics, for instance. You go into Daktronics, and they've got a lot of South Dakota State students working for them, and they aren't the only one, but that's one I'm quite familiar with. What a source.
Jim, do you have some thoughts on that?
No, we have, I would actually like to employ more students in Vermillion and Yankton as opposed to Sioux Falls, because one of the things that I don't like about students going home to Sioux Falls on the weekend is that they don't really come back for anything, obviously, but you can get there pretty easily to a basketball game, football game, any kind of event, even the Shakespeare Festival. If you are working in Yankton and can drive back. So we do have a fair number of opportunities in Vermillion for students, and a fair number of students do work there, but I think we could do a better job of that. And one of the things I will do when I get back to Vermillion is check to see how our students find out what they would most likely check into to figure out whether the jobs are available.
When we did our research with District 3 on the workforce in the 9-county area, in the past, the companies have individually tried to solve their workforce issue. That doesn't work anymore. The way they've tried to recruit has been the same for the last 50 years. Radio, television, print medias, and with that 18 to 30-year-old, they don't use those medias. So what we found is we have to find a mechanism that communicates with that 18 to 30-year-old. We're losing 800 to 1,000 people a year in this 9-county area. We know where they're going, but we also found out that they don't know of the opportunities that are in this workforce market because we're not communicating well. They can't name 3 companies in Yankton. So we've failed to communicate with that 18 to 30-year-old, and only because we want them to communicate on a 50 to 70-year-old level, and they're communicating on an 18 to 30. So we switch to them or they leave the marketplace. And that's the challenge that we have now. I mean, there could be 10,000 students in Vermillion, but if you ask 10,000 students to name one company in Yankton, they can't do it. And yet we advertise, we come up.
Ben's.
We know Ben's.
They know in a nice way. And Larry brings up a great comment, is they might only be working for a Sapa or a Baldwin or for a year or two, but we need them at that level. You know, and because we have these other levels, the 2-year, the 4-year, and you can't afford to miss out on markets that we've ignored.
So what do you do? I mean, how do you reach them? Have you found what's worked in
yeah.
other places?
Oh,
or
yeah,
what?
yeah. We've researched about 9 other regions. Creating a website that you can promote to them, that gets to them, that they will start using, is the answer. And that, you know, I've worked in the Dubuque market, I've worked in the Cedar Rapids market. You know, Dubuque had to add 1,000 people for 3M in a year and a half. They did it. So it works, you just got to get it, you got to set that system up. It's expensive. And the website is one thing, it's marketing the website to get to those kids. And I hate to say kids.
So Yankton Area Progressive Growth will have a Snapchat account set up by the end of the day.
I don't know anything about it, there's some people that know how to do it, and they're doing it now. And I just know it's going to cost a whole ton of money, so.
No. Great.
Second part of that is, we're going to college, we don't want to work a minimum wage job. I left my job.
Oh,
as a
come
builder.
on now.
I left my job
No,
to make more money to pay my
come after you
bills.
on that.
That's fine, like, there's nothing wrong with minimum wage jobs, but I'm going to school, I should be making more than that. I have 5 or 6 years in the workforce. So I drive to Yankton for my job just for the fact is, one, housing in Vermillion is outrageous, and at minimum wage I'd have to work a hell of a lot more to pay my bills. So now I drive to Yankton for work. So, come on Larry, answer that.
Now let's not get our panties wrapped up in a bundle here about working about a minimum wage job. I understand why you probably don't want to do that, but I'm telling you that if you need a job while you're in school, you better take what you can get, you better be damn good at it. We have a lot of interns that come through First Dakota, and we've hired some of them because we like them, we get a chance to see them, and we hire them. I know it's a problem out there. We get a lot of people ask for an internship that we just can't handle, and I can understand that, but you really set me off when you say you don't want to work for a minimum wage job. I don't know anybody who's paying minimum wage around here. I don't know anybody that pays minimum wage. Well, you might in Vermillion, but you didn't do something about it.
Not on the Saba, makes $17 an hour.
Yeah, I know, I came over here instead.
And the one thing I heard is, they say that we're not watching TV, we're not reading the newspaper, and those things are true. One of the ways because how we get our news is we sit on Facebook, we sit on Twitter, we sit on Reddit, we sit on these local, we sit on social media websites that you guys can use to reach us. And the one thing we can do to reach both the youth and the adult that they do, I'm actually originally from the Pier area, is they use radio to reach all the small communities around Pier. If they have a public service announcement they want to make, or if they have an event, a big event that's going on in Pier, they use the radio to get it out. We're not having any discussion about, we have a kind of radio station that offers actually pretty cheap advertising that can get to both the communities of Vermillion and Yankton. It's a way to get to both communities at the same time, get to multiple age groups, and be able to get the news out within both communities.
Actually, I think this recent discussion, this last discussion, is really illustrative of the point. Our students don't necessarily, particularly business school students, who have several opportunities much of the time, do not want to work for minimum wage. Larry is saying that hardly anybody offers minimum wage. That's probably true, and yet the students don't seem to know that, and the employers don't seem to know that students might be available. So it really is a communication issue. I'm 67 years old. I'm pleased that Larry is here and older. You have to remember that students and young people particularly, no matter how interested they might seem, they're passively interested. And they get a boatload of emails a day. I get 200 emails a day, probably from things I don't have anything to do with. If you have to do 2 clicks, it doesn't work. The key, it seems to me, has to be to get the information to somebody so they only have to click it on it once and then they get it. They're not going to search out a website, I don't think, unless they're specifically looking for one thing. That's why the information doesn't seem to be imparted very well. The students clearly don't know that minimum wage is really not the way it is. But employers maybe don't either.
How much do you think you're worth?
How much I value buy myself out?
Yeah,
Well, currently probably around $12 an hour.
well,
Yeah.
okay, and what can you bring to me?
I've never worked in the bank, but I'm really good at customer relationships. I have knowledge in finance areas and stuff like that. Currently, I work at a trucking company, so what I bring to them is knowledge of welding, mechanics. I'm able to fill out
How much do they pay you?
what I said I was worth.
$12 an hour, okay. Well, you don't have anything to worry about minimum wage, do you? You're apparently bringing value to them.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. We are gonna cut off questions because we want to get you back to work so you can be productive, unlike these students who want to take more loans. But this has been a fun discussion and one that I hope is just a starting point. I think there's a lot of niches we can go off of from here. We can do this same discussion in Vermillion. We can talk about medical, we can talk about nonprofits. There's a lot of nuances of where this can go. So thank you so much for coming. Let's give it up for our panelists and for the class.